find any evidence that Kamala Harris is Black. So first, let's start with just Kamala Harris's birth certificate. In the bottom there, you can see that it says that her father's name is Donald Jasper Harris, and that the color or the race of the father is listed as Jamaican. So you can be Jamaican, you can grow up in Jamaica and not be Black, obviously. It's like Elon Musk, like he was born and raised in Africa. It would be absurd for Elon Musk to say that he was Black, because he is not Black. He is a white African. This is an alleged photo of Beryl Christie Harris, okay? Kamala is the one that entered this into the public domain in her book. She wrote, "Visiting my paternal grandmother, Beryl, in Jamaica," okay? Beryl was born in 1921 and she died in 1960. 1964 is when Kamala was born. Her grandmother died in 1960. So who is that woman that is in the photo with Kamala? There's something weird here. So last night we decided to continue our research to see if we could find birth certificates and marriage certificates and death certificates, which could further signify those points, and indeed it did. As speculated, we were able to confirm that Kamala's Black grandmother that she showed us in that picture died in 1960, before Kamala was born. I can show you right now her death certificate. As you can see there, it says that she died in July of 1960. And so this is a huge scandal. Just an absolutely huge scandal. Kamala Harris published in her book that she was standing next to her grandma Beryl. But Grandma Beryl died in 1960, 4 years before Kamala Harris was born. We have already watched Kamala completely switch her character wherever she is. Like, she totally is a chameleon. We've seen her do this sort of Spanish accent. Oh, I love you back. We've seen her do, when she's in front of a Black crowd, suddenly she's like in these streets.
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets.
It makes me very uncomfortable when someone is so comfortable becoming an entirely different person, depending on what crowd they're in front of. Like, you don't have to do that. And if you're doing it, it means that you are willing to be inauthentic to get to where you want to go in life. You're not yourself, right? You're just somebody that puts on a mask and says, what room am I stepping into, and what do I have to sell myself as? That is quite literally not someone that you want to have in office. The press, as you're out there referring to Janet Jackson, is crazy, right? For suggesting, what did Janet Jackson say? She said that she heard that Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, was Irish. But if we find out that that woman is Kamala's real grandmother, and that she decided to appropriate the domestic help who potentially died younger as her grandmother, we are watching one of the most diabolical political moves that we have ever seen in the history of this country. I just want to say that. I'm not saying it's true, again, but I am saying that I don't like the picture. I always find that the dog that isn't barking, the fact that they never mentioned these marriages, the fact that they laughed people out of the room when they suggested that Kamala Harris could be white, and the fact that they just refused to mention any aspect of this and are remaining hush-hush on it, doesn't make me feel good. We are getting closer and closer, and I will bet you the DNC is paying attention to this show now. Now, there's even more proof, of course, that at the very least, the bare minimum, Kamala Harris is not Black. It isn't just Janet Jackson. Take a listen to this first clip before we jump into the second one.
She was everybody's favorite Hindu Indian prosecutor. Now she becomes black, but you know, I met her daddy, fine gentleman, Professor Harris. And the problem with her being black is Professor Harris says he's Caucasian, mixed Irish and Hindu. He doesn't have any black ancestors, but his Irish ancestors owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica. So if mama is on the birth certificate listed as a Caucasian, daddy says he's a Caucasian Hindu and has no black ancestors, how did she get to be black?
I mean, the math is not mathing.
Why don't you go get your daddy to give you an affidavit that you have a black ancestor?
Another email that was received, and headline in the email was Kamala Harris is German Jewish. This guy is saying, no, I have figured this out. Actually, we do know who the father was of Joseph Alexander Harris. It was Bravo Harris. Joseph Bravo, by the way, had a brother, and his name was Michael Ralph Bravo, and he is registered as a Freemason in Jamaica. Look at this. The Hebrews resident from the same book in St. Anne Parish assembled for divine worship on Yom Kippur at the home of Joseph Harris. And he believes that this is the father of Joseph Alexander Harris. If this is correct, he is saying that this would, of course, be known to the Harris family. We would obviously know that she had Jewish relatives, which again just keeps leading us to this question of why hide any of this? This is not something that the world would be upset about or angry about. So I just don't understand why we are hiding certain relatives, pretending not to know certain ancestral things. What is the explicit? But here is something that we do know about Donald Harris. We know for a fact that Donald Harris was a committed communist. And what do we know about communists in general? Communists change their identities the entire time. Historically speaking, every major communist figure that you know changed their name. They don't use their real names. Joseph Stalin was not Joseph Stalin. Vladimir Lenin was not Vladimir Lenin. Pol Pot was not Pol Pot. A good commie knows that you have to change your identity and continually change your identity. My gut is telling me that Donald Harris is simply lying about who he is. I'm not even convinced that he is Kamala's father at all. Because as I said, the lie has to be so big that it was worthy of her changing who her grandparent was in the storyline. What is it that she's hiding? Like I said, genetics is funny business. You never know what gene you're going to hit, but I am just saying that she really, really, really favors Vioris, who she has gone through great lengths to obscure. After going through all these photos, I made a joke to my producer and director. I was like, oh, what's next? Is there going to be a picture of her just like eating collard greens? And they said back to me, no, she's done that. I said, I cannot believe this. Produce me the clip. And they did. Here it is.
And I am not lying to you that I would make so many greens that I'd need to wash them in the bathtub. I'm telling you the truth.
So how do you make your greens? Do you put turkey in them? Do you
Bacon.
Put nice. My grandma
I do
puts
bacon.
She's put
Garlic.
vinegar.
I put white vinegar.
1 year, I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub. So I am not playing around.
Black America, listen to me. I'm speaking directly to you because I am not playing around either. If I catch you voting for this woman, I'm going to haunt you. I'm going to haunt you in your dreams. There will be nowhere that you can go where I will not haunt you. This makes Kamala Harris exceedingly dangerous. I don't quite think people understand what we are dealing with here. If you have a woman who has a grandparent or a great-grandparent who was tight with Bustamante, who was rounding up Rastafarians and cutting their dreads off and killing and torturing them, who can just not have any guilt, even slight guilt about that, and just pull out a black card and just be like, yeah, I'm going to be the first black president, and talking about her heritage in Harlem. Like, someone who's capable of that just feels nothing in their soul, is not a person that you want to give more power to. If you have it within you to take the identity of black people who were washing your clothes, right? Dealing with your plantation, which means they were descendants of the slaves that you owned, and you felt nothing when you stole their identity to create a story about yourself so that other black people would be enslaved by you in a different country, you are disturbed.